You're listening to How to 20-something, the only podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to be focusing on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life and what to do about it. I'm your host, Just Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Just Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. You're listening to another episode of How to 20-something. Before I actually dive in today, I want to give you a final reminder that from doubt to decision is tonight. That is, if you're listening to this episode the day that it drops, which is Monday, July 31st. You can still sign up using the link in the show notes or going to justdiamondcoaching.com/decision making. And it's completely free. It's on Zoom at 8 p.m. Eastern with a replay being sent out right after it's over, just in case you can't make it live or if you ever want to revisit the video and learn how to confidently make decisions in the future. But it's time for you to stop overthinking and second guessing and get out of your head and into your heart and trust your intuition when it comes to making a decision that is in alignment with the life you're wanting to create for yourself. I would love to see you guys in the Zoom room or signed up to receive the replay. Today's topic is unemployment. In fact, the next several episodes are going to be related to some aspect of your career, such as career transitions, job changes and losses, the world of self-employment, and how your career fits into your life. This is something I'm so passionate about because my career path is largely what led me to coaching and created the coach that I am today. I find that what makes me so unique and advantageous for other young professionals to work with me is that I dipped my toes in every part of a career path they are bound to experience during this time. Not only did I struggle to find a job out of college, but I hated the only job that offered me a position, and 5 months into working there, I started to apply to some other places, thinking it was the job and not the career. And 7 months into working there, the pandemic happened and the world shut down. And I lost my job. During this time, I explored some interests and found my passion in the world of health and fitness, but went back to the corporate world with the intention to leave it and pursue a career that was aligned with my heart. And in March of 2022, I did just that. I went from struggling to find a job, working in the pre-pandemic world, experiencing unemployment where I didn't even qualify for unemployment or the stimulus checks, which we'll get into, going back to work in this weird post-pandemic world, we'll have post in quotations, and then leaving my career to follow my passion and start my own business. Like I said, I literally dip my toes in essentially any part of the career process a young professional is bound to go through at one point or another, and I want to support you through these massive changes and give you the clarity and direction you need to make a career decision you are in alignment with. My passion for coaching 20-somethings came about because I needed a coach that specialized in 20-somethings, and at the time it didn't exist, and I struggled to find my way on my own. So I became the resource I needed so that none of you have to feel alone on this journey through adulthood, and it's also why I started this podcast. You probably don't need me to tell you this, but your career takes up a majority of your life. And when it goes away, there is a sense of loss of purpose or identity in your life as you're no longer needed to wake up and join the rest of society. Maybe you feel like a failure, like somehow you're being graded on life and someone gave you a big fat F in the career part. For most of you, your unemployment is entirely out of your control if you were laid off or furloughed, so now it's a matter of what do you do with this unexpected amount of free time and confusion with what to do next. And yes, this also applies to those of you who are freshly graduated with no job lined up, to those of you who got fired, and to those of you who quit their jobs. Basically, this episode is for anyone who is not actively working, but knows it won't be this way forever. And that is what I'm here to help you figure out. I'm going to jump back in time and talk about my 6-month period of unemployment as I accidentally developed amazing habits that I now have others do when they lose their jobs. And mind you, this was an extremely tough time for me with a lot of tears, a lot of humility, and a hell of a lot of uncertainty. And my habits most definitely didn't start out great, but we got there eventually. I know the entire world was filled with uncertainty in 2020, but for me, I had just lost the one job that was a struggle for me to get in the first place. And it was a retail and restaurant design entry-level job and based out of Canada, which had so many more protocols with the pandemic than the US did, let alone Florida. There was no light at the end of the tunnel, and each day was brought with how do I fill my time to get through another day? Not to mention, I felt like a complete failure and like the black sheep of my family. I kept a COVID journal, and I actually still have it and update it every so often, but in one of the entries, I wrote how shitty I felt. Like I was failing at being an adult, and like a charity case when my grandparents sent me a check because of how much I was struggling. It was humiliating. I wish I could go back 3 years and give younger me a hug, and to tell her that there's a reason behind all of this. Just be patient. I know I'm very fortunate that my mom and my grandparents were in good places financially to be able to help me out, but it didn't feel so good being in that position. And this is not how I want you to view your unemployment. I want to help you shift your view with this is a time for exploration of yourself and what you want from your career and quality of life, and not that you are failing in adulthood, even if it might feel that way for a little. And it's a perspective I wish someone had instilled in me while I was having multiple mental breakdowns and doubts in my future and capabilities and reason for existing. To set the scene, it was March of 2020. I was in the final interview rounds at 2 different firms, and then with good reason, they both went on a hiring freeze. And by the end of March, I was facing unemployment as I had been furloughed for at least 1 month, which later turned into 6, unbeknownst to me. I worked from home for 2 days before I said goodbye to my paycheck. I remember having a call scheduled on my calendar for 4 p.m. on a Tuesday with my boss, HR, and the VP of the company, where they immediately told me I was to shut off my laptop as soon as this call was over and I was furloughed for the next month. They also had to explain what being furloughed is, which, for those of you who don't know, it's I could still accrue seniority with the company, so I could keep this continuation on my resume, but I wasn't getting any paychecks. I had no benefits, nothing of that sort. So after I received that news and understood what it meant, the tears came directly after. I remember calling my mom and being devastated. I thought I lost my purpose in life, which in hindsight, I believed to be showing up for my entry-level job. Bringing me to my first lesson for you, and that is, you are not your job. You are a unique individual who is special in his or her own way. But in the eyes of the company you work for in your early to mid-20s, you are a number. You are replaceable. Your job should not be your whole life. It should be keeping you mentally and financially stable so you can pursue a life outside of your career. Losing your job does not mean you lost your purpose. I know it can feel that way as you no longer have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, making it a hell of a lot more tempting to stay under your covers and hide out from the rest of society and have a no one's going to miss me anyways mentality. But as soon as you lose your job, you need to put on your big boy pants or big girl pants and go apply for unemployment. And be patient with these sites as they crash so easily if multiple people in your state are qualifying at the same time or applying at the same time. The likelihood of you experiencing the website crashing is low, whereas in March of 2020, everyone in a service-based industry was having to log on. It's just something to keep in mind. I did not qualify for unemployment for the entire second quarter of 2020. So from April through June, I was unable to collect money from the state. And a friend from college had just graduated law school and referred me to a friend who specialized in unemployment law, where he took my case pro bono since we were all very confused as to why I was getting denied. And after thorough research, he discovered that in order to collect unemployment and be approved, your earnings from the previous 2 quarters added together needed to be greater than the most recent one times 1.5. So for me, it was Q3 and Q4 of 2019 added together needed to be greater than 1.5 times my Q4 earnings, since I was still applying in Q1 of 2020, and then the same scenario for when I applied in Q2. I was extremely unlucky in that I started working halfway through Q3 of 2019, so I was off by about $1,000, which means that had I started work a week or two earlier, I wouldn't have had an issue. But we can't change the past, and no one forecasted a pandemic happening in 2020, so we're just chalking it up to really unfortunate timing. And the start of the pandemic was really a Murphy's Law situation for me, where anything that could go wrong did. So before you go through the headache of applying for unemployment, do the math to make sure you'd qualify, which if you've been working for 2 entire quarters, then you should be good. Also, if your company gave you a severance package, then you cannot apply for unemployment until after that is complete. But this does not mean that for the entire time you are getting your severance, you can sit back and twiddle your thumbs. Sure, take a week or two off and relax, but get right back into the job hunting, because before you know it, your severance will be up and you'll be without a job and filled with a lot of uncertainty. And trust me, it's a terrifying situation to be in. The most important thing to do while you are figuring out your next move, though, is to maintain some sort of routine. Continue to take care of yourself. Humans thrive on routine. Otherwise, we tend to get lost in our thoughts and things turn very dark very quick. The biggest message I want to give you of what to do when you're unemployed is to work to develop the healthiest habits you can, and then figure out which habits benefit you the best so that you can make sure you're keeping them around when you do return back to work. The first month of the pandemic, when I thought I was only going to be unemployed for that 1 month, I slept in every day, I stayed in bed and watched TV until about 11 or 12, and then would work out and later return back to my bed and watch more TV or go to the pool. After that first month of being furloughed, when I was originally told it would only be 1 month, I contacted my boss and asked what was happening and if I was going to be able to start working again, to which she told me HR would be in contact with me. And several hours later, I received an email from HR saying that my furlough would be extended at least an additional 12 weeks. I was at a loss for words. I vividly remember calling my mom in a state of shock. You know, that giggle but crying state, like, what am I going to do for the next 3 months? And everyone thinks Florida was closed for 2 weeks, but it was really closed for 2 months, which I know is still not nearly as long as a lot of other places, but the end of April still showed no sign of hope. I realized the way I was living was not feasible for the next 3 months, so I started to create a better routine for myself and made a rule that I couldn't watch TV until after dinner. And this is a rule I still applied to my now self-employed self. I began waking up at normal times, like 8 a.m. I took up reading self-help books every morning with my coffee. I ate 3 meals a day again. I went to the gym and took my time with my workouts. I went for walks. I took up listening to podcasts, and I kept up with my COVID journal. And by the first week of May, I bought my personal training course and added studying for at least 2 hours every day to my routine. I was working towards something. With no intention of making personal training my career, but more of a side thing that I enjoyed doing and something I wanted to expand my knowledge on. Now I had structure to my day and felt productive in some side path in my life, something I had no idea would turn into my main path and my ticket out of the corporate world. My habits were incredible. My mental health benefited tremendously, and I felt like I was actually doing something with my time rather than waiting for the day to end so the next one could come and go. After the 6 months of unemployment, I knew there were certain habits I definitely wanted to keep up with once I started back with my full-time job. During the week, it was keeping up with my walks and podcast listening, and then I looked forward to my weekend mornings where I could have my lovely unemployed routine of reading and coffee in the morning and taking my time at the gym. It became my dream to be able to have my relaxing morning routine every day, which I can now say I've been happily implementing for over a year since leaving my job to pursue my business last March. Bottom line, you need to make sure you are keeping a steady sleep schedule, exercising regularly, and eating well, as those are the 3 key things to give you stability and mental clarity. Another perspective shift I want to help you with during this time is to invite space for this moment of pause in your career. Clear out something in your life, whether that be some clothes, old emails, pictures on your phone, cleaning your car or your junk drawer, literally anything. But you're essentially sending a message out to the universe that you are creating an opening for something new to come in, both literally and energetically. Use this time off to your advantage. Begin exploring what you actually enjoy doing with your time. Get in touch with old hobbies. See if there is a job or industry out there that supports this interest. This is not a time to sit around, throw yourself a pity party, or play hours of video games or binge watch a show, as you have this beautiful new time freedom that is allowing you to explore. Explore who you are, the people in your life, the environment you're in, and the career you're after. And to add to this time freedom, you might be tempted to have more of a weekday social life, to which I do want to encourage you to go out and network rather than isolate yourself, but to also refrain from regular alcohol intake during this period. When you are unexpectedly unemployed, you are extremely vulnerable, mentally unstable, and stressed out. Resorting to alcohol to cope with your struggles or to numb out your reality is so dangerous to your health and well-being, and you're masking the symptoms that you're going to have to face later regardless. I was very fortunate to have the foresight that alcohol would not help my mental state and only worsen it, so during my time of unemployment, I stopped drinking, and I actually still don't really drink that often, maybe on special occasions, but it really got nipped in the butt during the pandemic, and I know for a lot of people, the reverse happened. But we all have different stories. So if you are experiencing unemployment now, as in 2023, pandemic is decently behind us, really refrain from the alcohol intake. It was easy for me since I really only drank when I was out at the bars, and all of the bars were shut down. So I got out of the habit of drinking and developed a strong relationship with myself without the use of substances. This is a time to look for beneficial coping mechanisms that help you feel calm and relaxed in a very uncertain time. Things like reading, going on a swing outside or a hammock, going for a run, or journaling, rather than trying to escape your mind with tactics that won't help you. If anything, it'll make you feel worse. Alcohol puts you in a 50-50 mental state where you're either really happy or really sad, and there's hardly an in-between. We all know alcohol is a depressant. There is a high point and then it drops, drastically increasing your already existing depression and anxiousness that comes with not having a stable job or knowing your next move. It's easy to resort to alcohol for help in feeling relaxed about your current employment situation or lack thereof, and to escape the reality of your shitty situation. But please try your hardest to not give in. I know that our dependence on alcohol was instilled in most of us through our college experiences. I was definitely taught by friends that when you fail a test or have a bad day, it's time to drink, essentially teaching me that when the going gets tough, go and grab a drink. But drinking does not solve your problems. It delays the inevitable while also worsening your mental health, not to mention impacting your finances negatively. And your mental health should be your number one priority at all times, especially when you are facing unemployment. It's time to shift your relationship with alcohol, break that habit and mindset, and tap into your rational adult brain. In other words, it's time to grow the fuck up. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but we're adulting now, and it's time to put on those adulting pants. But remember, we want to create healthy habits during this time, maintain a regular routine, and incorporate some new skills or knowledge. But before I wrap up today's episode, I want to run through some more advantageous activities you can do that will make your time in between jobs more useful rather than wasteful. And this includes things like continuing to network. Now that you have the time, dive into your community and see what events are being held and where, and go to them. Get a mocktail or sip on some water, because remember, we don't want the alcohol in our life. But most of you 20-somethings listening live in or near a city. all you have to do is Google networking events in your area and see what comes up. But this is also a time to update your resume, as you'll definitely need it to apply for new jobs. And thirdly, this is an absolutely crucial time for you to get a grip on your finances and spend only on necessities. It's going to take a lot of pride to have to say no to trips or taking someone out on a date or to events that your friends are going to because you can't afford it. But trust me, you need to be so on top of where your money is going and work to preserve as much of it as you can. Sit tight for a little. A saying that always helped me when I was in a tough time in my life is, it's not forever, it's for now. So you saying no doesn't mean you're always going to have to say no, but your current financial situation might be the wake-up call you need to get your shit together and become more responsible as to where you're allocating your funds and how you're showing up in your life. Ask yourself if it's a want or a need and create the discipline with yourself to say no to the wants. I'm not saying this is easy to do, but it's for sure possible. And finally, saving the best for last, set goals. This is such a scary and uncertain time, and it's easy to slip away from your grasp on reality and your place in society, so you need to set some goals for you to work towards. Make to-do lists for each day. Even if the to-do list is clean the plates in the sink, write it down. Give yourself the satisfaction that you accomplished something that day, and when you do it, you get to check it off once it's done. It's a very satisfying feeling to check off any type of list. But go back and listen to episode 1 again and remind yourself to be kind as you are doing the best you can. And aspire to use this time to work on yourself and understand what you want from your life. This is one of the biggest things I help my clients with because it's your key to having a life that you love. Your time in the unemployment world is special. It's absolutely chaotic and beyond stressful, but it's special nonetheless. It's a time in your career journey that you will never forget. How you utilize this time out of work will determine the trajectory for the next step in your career, whatever that may be. But please do not give up on yourself. This is the time where you need the most amount of self-care and support. Do not hide out from society and wait for an opportunity to come your way. Keep taking action. Keep exploring different paths you could follow. Find something and commit to it for now, knowing that if it doesn't work out like you planned, then you can leave. Create the habits that support your mental and physical health the best, and be sure to find a way to incorporate them into your 9-to-5 schedule for when you do go back to work. And keep your chin up. It's going to be okay. You're not going to be homeless. And you know that I'm here for you if you ever need a coach to help you figure out your next move. So, if you are facing unemployment, know that you are not alone. It's an unfortunately common experience as we are the new ones in the company, and the last one in is the first one out. I know how horrible it feels to not know your next move and to not see the light at the end of the tunnel. I know the future becomes bleak and not fun, but keep trucking along. Set little goals for each day that you can work towards. Go outside, find some hobbies, get back in touch with your younger self, and partake in activities you enjoyed doing. And who knows, it might just lead you down an unexpected soul-aligned career path. The time is going to pass anyways, so you might as well do something that supports your future self in some way. And if there was ever a time to invest in yourself and your time, it's right now. It's while you're in the in-between of your career. There's no need to feel like you're swimming in the ocean with no land in sight and unsure of what direction to take. Simply take some direction and follow through on where it goes, because eventually you'll find the land that you were looking for. And if you need help in deciding what direction to take, then please sign up for From Doubt to Decision. That's tonight. But that's all I have for you on what to do when you're fun employed. It's not really a fun time at all. My heart goes out to all of you listening who are facing this time in your 20s, and please let me know if there's any way I can support you so that you don't feel so lost and alone. And if you liked what you heard, please send it to a friend, share it on your social media, follow, rate, leave a review, do something to spread the word of this podcast so I can reach as many young professionals as I can. And if you have a story or you want me to cover a certain topic or have a question you want answered on here, then please check the links in the show notes. But I hope you enjoyed hearing a bit of my own success story, and thank you for listening to another episode of How to 20-something. I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week.